I was amazed. I was offered this movie.
Or any
You
film.
read a script, it's good. You go, okay, what hoops do I have to go through to be turned down? That's pretty much how I think of good scripts. And I read the script, and I had a meeting with Morgan and Neil. It was a kind of a lunch meeting, a kind of let's make sure this guy isn't crazy meeting. If he can get
I already
through.
knew you were crazy. The most intriguing thing about taking a job like this is just so, well, how do you feel about working with Chris Rock? Well, how the hell do I know?
Hi, I'm Chris Rock, a.k.a. Wesley.
I'm Neil LaBute, the director of Nurse Betty, and I'm here with Morgan and Renee and Greg to talk about the film. The film opens with a sequence we find in a few moments that is actually from the soap opera that Greg's character, the actor George McCord, works on. Probably the most interesting thing in terms of these scenes, other than, of course, your performance, one would have to say, because you're sitting right here, so you have to say that, is the way in which we shot them. The thing that was key to me about shooting the soap opera scenes was not making fun of soap operas. That from the very beginning, when we talked in rehearsal, was that the important thing was to make them both believable, but that the show was something that we could believe Betty would be interested in, and the character.
I'm not milking it for anything there, am I?
Wait, that's my first question. Do you like that? It's the first time I ever made that. I just started realizing that the camera actually can do things like that.
That's in my contract now. I have a push-in in all my movies.
There's Renee's first moment. And now we realize, hopefully, that this is a soap opera, a story within the story. But the way we shot the soap opera scenes, you visited a couple of soap opera sets. I did as well. And
we were very true to it. We had a technician there.
We had the cameramen were actually from soap opera from ABC, had shot soap operas. And because it was important, I thought that if Renee's character was in love with a silly show and a silly character, we would sort of marginalize her. We wouldn't believe in her cause and who she was.
But it's not to say that we didn't have a little fun with the material.
But I think the material in and of itself is just fun.
Yeah. It's
Morgan.
Excuse me?
Preposterousness.
That was me.
That was
This Morgan's first moment.
first moment.
Second moment.
Miss?
And this was a tough moment. The pouring coffee without looking.
Oh, it wasn't tough at all. What are you talking about? Years of practice, Neil LaBute.
Morgan has third-degree burns on his right hand.
You did, in fact, get coffee
104 times.
And in fact, there's some computer work there to take coffee off of the counters and don't pretend that it was completely simple.
I doubt by the time we got that shot, it was hot enough to do any damage to Morgan's hand.
This is very true. And there's the show, Reason to Love, the soap opera.
Skim, right?
Reason to love.
This was shot, meant to be in Kansas. This was shot.
I had a question. Was Chris spitting out did he have a spit bucket, or did he actually have
No, he
hamburgers?
was very good about eating hamburgers all day long.
All day.
That's brave.
Very brave. Yeah, that's a terrible decision to make, to eat food in a scene.
It's a naive decision.
Yeah, it's true.
You have to learn that decision, right? And correct.
It's true. When you think about the people who did eat in the movie, Aaron chose to eat those pork chops. And after about 18 of them...
By about 10 in the morning, you had about 18 pork chops.
He did do it with some relish, though. He really went after it.
He did.
He sold it. He sold the eating of the pork chops.
Now, here's a couple of savvy non-eaters here, huh?
Yes, there's Crispin Glover and Pruitt Taylor Vince.
They were great.
Hey,
Other characters from Fair Oaks, Kansas. This was shot outside of Los Angeles, but I mean literally the entire movie. That's the surprising thing when you first come here and work and shoot a movie. I shot one previous to this in L.A., but it was all indoors. And the idea of coming to one place and literally shooting, Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and so many places that you can make believably work on screen. And they're all in California, the desert scenes that we shot, except for going to the Grand Canyon. That was a good part, that directed by Neil LaBute part.
It wasn't big enough.
Let me ask a question here.
Yes.
Does it? I'm an audience, and I don't want to know all this inside stuff about what. I don't want the magic screwed up.
Really?
No.
What if they accidentally hit this DVD audio button by mistake, and they're watching this going, what the hell kind of movie is this?
None of the voices
None of the voices match.
you hope that doesn't happen. That's all you can do is you hope.
That's the only cardboard cutout of
I thought
me
you were a
that's
little
ever been
stiff in this
used.
particular scene.
Do you have one of those at home?
I never.
I know
Take
somebody
one home,
signed them
come
and sent them
on.
to
Never
you,
got
didn't
one.
they?
Come on.
I'm sure you got a dartboard version. Everybody else got one to take home.
This is the first taste we get here of Betty's husband, Dell, who works in his own car lot, and he's working right
Whose
now.
idea, by the way? Whose idea to put the scratch marks? If you don't mind my saying, a stroke of genius.
Those actually, that's stumbling onto genius. That was there. Those marks were actually on the wall. We sort of highlighted them, but I saw them and I thought that's just too good in terms of his character. It said so much about his character, really, without saying anything.
It really was great. And by the way, one of the best facial expressions that you'll see in the movie coming up here by our friend Dell, and it's just moments away. There you go. Wait, hold on. Here we go. There you go.
This is Aaron Eckhart playing Renee's husband. It's a guy I've worked with a number of times. And he tore into this. It was the hair, really, was the key, I think, to his character. He felt that, once he had that, this is not Renee. You don't remember shooting that scene, do you?
That's Morgan right there, actually.
That's Renee. But Aaron really latched onto that hair as something that said, I don't have to say a word and you'll know who this guy is. Everybody I've ever met who had that haircut had the same sort of attitude, and so it was a perfect choice, I think.
He's out pricing banners, but I don't expect him back.
This is
Banners?
I love this scene the first time I saw it because it just sets up so well Betty's
it's just sort of
dilemma.
Well, it's
and just how awful.
Yeah, it's
the
moment
situation
after
she's in.
moment you realize the situations that her life is stacked up into. I don't think there was ever any more outrage in the movie than when Dell later on, takes a bite of your cupcake.
You ever miss it?
That was the big from the audience. He was like, you could sleep with the secretary, you could lie
have
to
a
his wife,
scalping. Just
but if you take a bite of that cupcake on her birthday, it's an awful thing.
Really a sleaze bag.
Yeah, that he's stepped over the line at that point.
That's what I said. That's what I was talking. Yeah, I was talking about.
In terms of the shift, Renee, from we haven't seen yet exactly what happens to shift you from Betty Sizemore, Kansas waitress, to the young woman who takes off in this car you're about to steal now from the lot. How much work did you do in terms of looking into the fugue state that she goes into?
Preparing to play her was a lot of fun too. I got asked that a lot when we did the press junket stuff. Wasn't it hard? Didn't you have to do work and you kind of forget about that part of it because it's so enjoyable, it's so exciting and so much fun. I mean, that's one of the greatest things about this job is that you can go in and actually really learn something, expand on your education with each project that you undertake, and this was definitely no exception. I worked closely with Gail Mutrix, the producer, in finding information about the condition, because it's very specific. It's an actual medical condition that occurs in a person when the person has experienced something that is emotionally too traumatic for them to process mentally and proceed normally. It's kind of like a defense mechanism where they alter their reality subconsciously, and the parameters of it are really, really wide, although it's a very specific condition. They can develop personality traits. A person who experiences it can develop personality traits that are antithetical to those that personified the person before, or can change so subtly that the people who are closest to the person suffering from the condition wouldn't know it until they'd come out of it. So we had a lot of fun deciding how far to take it, but there was a lot of literal sort of definition to understand in terms of what was possible in as far as physical condition, physical symptoms and emotional symptoms, and we went from there, and we're just creative within those parameters. It was a lot of fun to do, a lot of fun, and such a rich experience as an actor to get to see a character through such an extensive journey, to take her from one place and have her change completely because of a subconscious experience that she has is really unique, and I doubt I'll ever see anything like it again.
Clean this shit up.
But you just love her so much. You just feel so protective of her the moment you meet her, I feel.
She's good. She's a good
She's
person.
good.
It's apparent when you read it that she's good. She's just good. She's good to a fault.
This is the seller right here. To get $10 from the grandparents.
Yeah.
That does it.
Aw. There was a moment that happened here at the end of that scene, and of course, the scene kind of would have died if you stayed on it that long, I think. You had to kind of cut it up where the cupcake dumped over. She sings happy birthday to herself, which would have put this film into a whole nother budget entirely. She sings happy birthday. How much is that? About $2 million
Yeah,
thrown
exactly.
onto the budget.
Something
right,
like that.
right.
Somebody
To get
owns
the
the rights to it.
exactly. And just as she finishes, the last note, the cupcake just kind of toppled, and the icing went onto the table, and it just was so...
Here's a defining moment for Aaron
yeah,
as well. Throwing the children's toy down the street. I have an actual sort of physical aversion, however, to this set. When I see this set, because remember how
flu?
sick everyone was
Oh
with the
my!
flu?
Yes.
I mean, to see it again, I still have that sort of Pavlovian.
No, it's absolutely
response
true
to
that
it.
you want to
Oh,
go,
gosh.
back up. Yeah, I guess that's
People were
interesting.
walking around
to
with
know.
masks.
Yeah,
over their
everyone
face.
except us.
Yeah.
The entire crew,
Actors were
including
healthy as
LaBute.
could be. Speed helps me forget the past.
Listen, David, I know I've said it before, but I want to tell you again how sorry I am about your wife.
Well, we should probably...
Let's not go. Not yet.
And you know, people say, well, what is it about this character that intrigues you? Well, here you have this man who is so... I don't know if the words it's not absolute, but he's really settled. He really knows what he's doing. He knows what he's about. He knows himself. He's really clear about that. And then at the end of the picture, you see that this extraordinary vulnerability here, this place that he's probably been in and just needed the right key to open it up. And that comes Betty Sizemore. You know, I just found that very intriguing, that this man would suddenly be this needful, you know, that he could just, over a period of a chase, wind up when he meets his dream.
She was wonderful, actually.
She was incredibly good, wasn't she? Elizabeth Mitchell.
Well, so many of
Yeah,
the
she was
actors
great.
in the soap opera and just the peripheral characters
really
that you
people-
cast throughout the movie.
Well, that's
Credit
what I was
to you.
hoping you'd get to.
Yes, I know. Oh, I'm reading it off. I'm reading this off
it was a
on
cast.
memo.
They didn't just
really,
show up there.
No, they
you know,
they really were.
It's a long,
well
difficult
cast.
casting process that I did.
Neil can't take a compliment very well.
But no, it really did. You know, when you have someone who you audience would traditionally say is going crazy, to have people around her make her seem relatively sane, because the world of the soap opera, the world of Kansas, everyone, you know, created a really nice comic atmosphere that made Betty seem absolutely rational in the center of it.
I love this scene.
Dell and
Cohorts.
Charlie and Wesley. It's amazing, you know, when you see this scene finally cut together, how unimportant what you guys were after really became. I liked that fact that it was so much less about drugs in the end, the finished product, because there were some fairly extended sections talking about what you guys were there for and what you wanted back, and in the end it was really, we opened a trunk and you could see that, oh, that's what they were after, but you didn't really know, and it didn't matter. You just knew that they wanted something back.
No, that's ignorant. We just don't know anything.
When we did the press work for the film, this scene was the one that I was asked about most frequently. People wanting to know why you made the choices that you made in terms of keeping some of the graphic images in this scene. And I had my answer that I would
typically give, but I would love to hear yours.
Well, what I was thinking...
Greg gave me a look.
Greg.
You know what was key for me in this section about the scalping? I think just the idea that there's a scalping that takes place is enough to make people react. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's not an act that you see very often, even though there's a lot of violence in films. And so just the idea of what it was going to be was frightening, I think, to people.
It's my fault.
I think in the end we tried any number. I mean, it was certainly graphic, more graphic when shot, as the end was. There's a shootout toward the end of the film that has, you know, more graphic material that we did shoot. But for this section, I thought it was really important, if we were to believe what happened to you and that you stay in this state for 2/3 of the movie, that we couldn't just, you know, that we tried a sort of almost Hitchcock approach where as Chris began to attack Del, we cut to just your face, you know, watching it through the door and trying
hearing
to see,
the screams,
hearing
and stuff.
all of the material.
Not as impactful, right?
It never felt as if the audience would believe that in the same way that they look at it, and if they're scared of it, you know, it's just flashes, just images, you know, if they didn't find it repulsive in a way, then I think they would be less apt to believe that you were so frightened by what you saw that you've slipped into this state.
And this is the version that ended up in the movies, I recall, is less violent than earlier versions that also you played around with.
Yeah.
You did experiment with other versions
Several
that were
times.
considerably, you had footage that was considerably more impactful than
Yes.
what you ended up using. And so it was finding the right balance.
That's right. Because I knew you had to see some portion of it, but then the mind took over and did the rest.
It's amazing, though, because Renee's right. Like, everybody, people look at the comment that you would get repeatedly is, well, it's such a violent film. It's not a violent film.
No, not
there
really
is
at all.
there is this moment in the movie that, for some reason, people identify it, you know, think, oh my gosh, it's so violent, but it's really not. It's this one moment that is impactful for a reason that leaves them with a sense that the film has that element to it, which it really doesn't.
Well, it also comes at them surprisingly because, as you can see, Morgan's talking so reasonably beforehand. There's no, the danger just creeps up on you in a way that is unexpected.
Yeah, the film is not a violent film per se.
As you can see.
I just, as I was saying that, I looked up and saw the images.
Don't choose that particular moment to say that.
You got such contempt for. Anybody got a raw deal, it was the American Indian.
Because I think that we were also very mindful that there was a point that we had to win the audience back as well. I mean, I think they went on the journey with Betty, but it's a parallel story of Charlie and Wesley, and you could only go so far as well with those two characters in this violence, and still expect an audience to come back and laugh with them and feel when Charlie starts to have questions about what they're. In fact, here's the scalping now, but you can see that we do cut back to a number of times, but it's the color and it's the sound. It's just, I mean, and this is Aaron doing all of his own stunt work here. We did have someone who did the stunts. Ultimately, he felt like, you know, you couldn't do this without being able to see his face and seeing, you know, one of the stuntmen, you so often have to, like, when they get set on fire, they shake their arms and, you know, and run around a bit, but you can't see someone's face, and he felt like it was very important. There was a point where he finally, at the end of this, of course, said, "I am so past this," of getting the blood poured on him and having his head torn up, but he really stuck with all that horrible effect.
Fucking great, man. I was on the way to stuff.
Well, he said it's in the Buick.
Where'd you fucking do it?
Then why'd you shoot him?
This was an interesting section in terms of working on it in post, because another one that we tried variations on, because here was the point that we had to show you slipping from, you know, moments ago, a person who was just trying to get her husband and friends to be quiet so you could watch your show, to slipping into this state. And the more we tried effects on this, the more we tried overlapping sound and changing the image, you know, like she was looking out and seeing strange things, the less effective it became. We ended up just going back to your performance. You know, it had to be on your face, that we just stayed on you and we saw you kind of click off or switch on to something else. But we went through a number of, you know, costly episodes of people saying, well, we could overlay this kind of images and see Morgan and Chris, 4 or 5 multiple images of them, and in the end it was all about just, don't do any of that, just stay on the actor, and they're going to make it work.
Did that pillow, I can never quite read it, say 2 Reasons to Love?
No, I think it was 2 Hearts Beat as One, something like that, one of those. Those horrible things. There's Crispin Glover again.
Are you okay?
I'm great.
I was kind of wondering if I might be able to ask some questions about what happened.
Well,
Crispin had actually fractured his hand during this. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, that's right.
He, you did? Who was it? You can just see we cut around it actually quite well, but in his what would be his right hand, he has a cast on. He went over the handlebars of a mountain bike and hurt his wrist during the filming. And we tried writing it in, all kinds of elaborate ways to get around what had happened, and in the end, we found that we could cut around it and not really ever bring it up.
Nice to see you, Sheriff.
And this is a huge switch, and yet so simple. There's like this addition in your character. It's the strange thing. It's like she just sort of completed herself by what people would say is, oh, she went crazy. She gained this sort of practical side, this drive that she never seemed to have. It was the only thing she didn't. You never would believe that she would leave her husband until this happened, and now she doesn't think of him as dead. She thinks that she's finding it in herself to go off on this journey, and that was a fun part of that character.
Well, I wasn't done. I was just tired of hearing him whine. And you didn't off anybody, buddy. You scalped him.
Morgan Freeman, I got it. All my scenes were at Morgan.
Did I tell you that?
So it's really easy for me to look bad. It's really easy for me to look horrible because you're so good. It's real easy for me.
Well, you got that backwards, Chris. You got it backwards. If you play chess with a good player, you look better.
Yeah, I learned that. Well, if you're intelligent at all, but I've been dumb my whole life.
That's not always true. How good do you look when
your
you're
number
wiped out
one
in 2
claim
moves?
to fame is your intelligence. Take this from me.
Thank
Everybody I know who's ever seen your show
Yeah,
says the
it's
thing
true.
that sets him apart from the rest of the crowd
He's smart.
He's smart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want you running off now thinking that, you should challenge.
Feel that.
I'm going to run for president.
And win.
Just to prove you guys how dumb I am. I'm going to run for governor. What an idiot.
Oh.
That previous scene where the two of you, Morgan and Chris, were breaking into the cars, that was our last scene, actually, that we shot. I remember somewhere else in Los Angeles.
I had to be a bad guy, too. Which is not a thing they let comedians do. Not in a...
And die.
And die. Well, I had this thing. If you're a comedian in a movie and you're gonna do something serious, you better be on drugs or die.
So you're saying that Betty Sizemore, our Betty Sizemore, who you went to swing choir with, hired somebody to scalp her husband in her kitchen while she watched.
It's just a theory.
Oh, you're amazing.
I always like these two characters because, without gilding the lily, they were really great comic relief.
They really were. And along the way, we lost a certain portion of their story because there was a side where they were investigating, and it didn't make sense to Crispin's character that to Roy that Betty would act this way, and immediately the sheriff said she must be guilty, and he seemed to carry a sort of flame for your character from high school and was going to clear your name. And it was very difficult, in fact, when trimming the movie down, and they disappear for a certain portion, and then they show up at the door, and I had real difficulty saying, okay, that's going to work, but it works in the most sort of outrageous soap opera way. What really worked for me when I started cutting that was thinking about the service of the door in soap operas. How many times two people have been together and the door opens and it's one of their partners, or it's the police, or it's like the front door is the magic portal in
Thank
soap
God
operas.
for the door in a soap opera.
So I thought it actually works in this particular case because anything can come through the door. So that's me just clearing up a lot of editorial things that I made.
That and the arched eyebrow is another quintessential moment in the soap opera.
Which you use to some.
Well, actually, a lot of people
effect.
don't realize that getting to have a moment as an actor, my goodness.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Having a moment. Sweet analogy. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. There's a number of them littered throughout the picture. More than you would probably guess.
The old over the salt and pepper shaker shot, right?
Exactly. And this is hopefully where we get our first clue that Betty is not completely altogether rational about her decision here when she's making a plea to her husband who's been slaughtered to understand when she goes off in search of her long-lost love. Beauty shots. This was probably your last shot. Wasn't it just about
raining? Yeah, it was actually
shooting you driving on your trip to.
Isn't that an interesting moment in making a film? Your last shot.
It's a strange idea.
Yeah, it is. There's a sadness in it. There's such a sadness. You don't realize
also
just
an
what the
expectation
experience
because
meant.
did we get it the first time through? Did we get it the second time through? Is it third? I'll have to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And then the first AD announces with such grand style that, ladies and gentlemen, Morgan Freeman is wrapped. So if you're feeling a little vulnerable at all at that moment, they certainly put the nail in the coffin with that announcement.
Expect you to step up and say a little something. And they go, oh, no, we have that one of the close-up. Okay. If you go get ready for that. This was, again, back in Fair Oaks.
Chris couldn't stop eating in this movie.
He did. He had to eat a lot here. Chris did a great job.
He's
I mean, he really, when talking to him and going into this, in a way, he had the most to lose going into this. Being a comic, someone he'd certainly done movies, but being known for being a stand-up comic and someone who'd done Saturday Night Live. And he really came into a character who didn't thrive on telling jokes, but he was sort of the quiet, sullen one in the beginning of this, and it's only through that anxiety of things going wrong that he begins to be outspoken. I love this moment when the kid puts his ray gun up here, and Chris reacts. See, he just has funny instincts as an actor.
He does.
But he was really so excited to work with me. But and Morgan was a big draw, I think, as well. But that he I got to say that he really looked up to your work, and there's a tendency. He was excited about doing the work with you, but there's also he was frightened, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh goodness, I can understand that. It's okay.
Well,
it's all right.
Because you can make people disappear on screen, because people start watching you. And then the other actor disappears. You understand film acting, that you understand the quiet of film acting. And so that I think there was both that excitement, but that trepidation of I've got to really, and I think that helped him dig in. He said, I'm gonna play a part here. I'm not gonna trade on the things that I'm really good at.
Well, he certainly did dig in. It's to watch the movie, see how he.
It's a nice character. It grows really well.
You know,
you watch him go from a guy who would be just happier to slap you or stab you than talk to you, and really, and it's a lovely kind of heartfelt moment at the end, which I'm not going to spoil now. I'll spoil when we get closer to it. Which was even that part of your relationship, you and Chris, was a big decision for me. How early to reveal that?
You didn't get the wrong idea on the phone, Lonnie.
Oh, I don't think so, Chloe. Now that you got your pretty little hands, you just want to back away from this whole thing. But when they call Chloe Jensen to the stand.
This was a great set, I thought. Not a set, really, it was a location.
Yeah, it was a great.
I don't remember well, what was it called, Signal Hill, somewhere like that? Down by Long Beach, I think it was, but a fantastic bar. Which
it's a strange little place.
So
right
strange.
Up the freeway. It's like a small town that.
Yeah, it was such an odd, and of course that back wall, not the one behind the bartender, behind Harriet, but behind the two of you is all plugged. It was a huge place that had like 2 stages and an amazing bar in the middle of this part of California. But it made a great sort of stopping point for this part of the more of the road picture part of the movie.
Hello?
Nice baby casting.
The baby's fantastic. That was a great baby. And this is as good a time as any to mention Jean-Yves Escoffier, just because I think this bar looks so good. But the guy who shot this, I think it's one of the beauties of the movie, is how strange the world looks. It has that kind of not quite real look to it. There's a lot of scene. He just his lighting, the way he shoots the scene. Jean-Yves has a unique view on America, and I thought that the movie looked quite great. She's very. I mean, Kathleen was great. Everybody. There was a lot of really good comic actors in this. It's fun looking at the soap opera right now. It's amazing how much soap opera we shot.
Oh, tell the story of Lonnie, the casting situation.
The guy sitting next to you, Laird.
Wonderful.
This is a good kind of Hollywood story. The guy who played the essentially the bad guy. His name's Laird McIntosh. We were looking to cast that role, and he was an extra in the film I'd done before this. And I thought he was so good as an extra. He never said a word. He sat next to someone in the scene. He sat and just reacted, you know. And I thought, he's so good. And I remember his looks, and I thought, I wonder if and I just remembered his first name was Laird. And I thought, I wonder how I would get a hold of that guy. And we were on a location scout, and I said, there was this guy named Laird. And I'm not kidding, the guy who's driving the van says, you mean Laird McIntosh? I thought, shut up, what are you talking about? And he actually knew this guy, and he was working as a bartender, and he got his number for me, and he came in, and we cast him.
Perfect story.
Yeah,
wonderful.
It was just like,
and he was great,
and he was fantastic.
And it's great for actors listening to hear that sort of story, because you
never know where it's going to come from.
Take a job as an extra. You just never know what's going to happen.
Right.
You know, so you can't go in thinking, I'm only an extra.
Right. Because the impact of whatever that moment is, you have no idea how that's going to play out.
And you know, the funny thing is the scene is not even in the movie. That he was in. He was sitting next to Catherine Keener, which is again this to do. She's an incredible actress, but I was sitting there going, watching the rushes, who is that guy? He's really good.
Mm.
And bang. Oh, this is the first of our Grand Canyon. This was a day. Talk about a day. The Grand Canyon.
Right. A lot of people tell me that this was one of their favorite moments in the movie, these Grand Canyon videos.
Yeah, they were lovely. They were lovely things that, I mean, and the fact that this is one of the very few things that I brought to the script, I mean, in terms of changing anything that was an episode.
Weren't you giggling a lot when we kissed?
I think you can just see Renee shaking slightly.
You'll see her shoulders
as the sun goes down.
So I swept you up in my arms. She just...
That had to be a real confidence builder.
Yeah, that really
but we were doing it. Sun was freezing. Turn on this
2 in the morning.
fan.
Yeah.
Oh my
She's
God.
got nothing on.
Well, and she's wearing the Mary Poppins outfit at that point.
It's like, gosh, how many times are we going to have to do this?
Yeah. Oh, you had that.
It looks so romantic.
You had that fantastical dress on. That's right. In the evening.
You look so crazy.
Yeah, you kissed her too, right?
Yeah.
It was being passed around that day like
And you had the amazing
Talk about
waitress
hand to
dress
mouth.
on. Yeah,
we're all getting something over that day. That's right.
Oh gosh, that was a truly. I mean, the trip in there on that horrible road.
Oh.
Do you remember that 2 hours?
Yeah. We stayed in Las Vegas, and then we did the drive through the what was the something national park? Huh?
It was like the Hula-Pai Indian Reservation.
Hula-Pai
Yeah.
Indian Reservation.
Yeah.
Not national park. It was a reservation.
It was a reservation that was on. Yeah.
And what was the name of that forest, though? That something forest.
Joshua Tree.
Joshua Tree Forest that we drove through.
Yeah.
Amazing. And didn't you take a helicopter out on a crazy windy day?
I did to get to that location first. To arrive there, took a helicopter there. That's very strange.
You take care.
She was wonderful.
Hula-Pai Indian
Harry
Reservation.
was great.
Harry
Yeah.
was great.
A lot of people live in situations like that. I leave.
But that's what I think helps give the movie that quality, the best sort of thing, which is unexpected. You just don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, that in the middle of that conversation, there was this episode that really doesn't explain itself. You know, this Grand Canyon, other than a reference you make when you finally meet whom you think is the doctor, but it's really the actor. And then the idea that I think that was what I was saying before, is the only thing that I really added to that script in terms of an episode was then taking Wesley and Charlie to the Grand Canyon. And I mean, I thought the idea was funny that they would go to see the Grand Canyon at night, but it was important to share those same kinds of things, you know, to see that he was having happen to him what was happening to you, that he was beginning to lose touch with what was his reality, and it was a good way to illustrate that. Crispin in a restrained moment,
and it's also a real come on for for me as an actor, this character who was so in control of everything and so stable, such a settled, older, experienced individual, suddenly he slowly starts sliding off the edge of life.
Mm-hmm.
That's Betty.
Yeah, and it's in like a scene like this that we start to hear these words like poise, not the way that you would describe someone who's about to be your next victim, but
right.
Gosh, she's just so poised and she seems so lovely, and it's just it's a nice shift from this guy who understands his job, and it is a job, and you do it, with as much dignity and respect and
as dispassionately.
And to suddenly be caught up by the image of someone, because they've literally just, in fact, in the original script, you folks didn't meet. The first one that I read, you didn't have a moment where you crossed paths in the restaurant even.
Really?
So it really wasn't until the end. Yeah, and I thought they have to have at least touched briefly. So yeah, I guess I saved that part of the movie too. But
there you go again.
Being so shy.
Yeah, exactly. This is a funny speech. It starts going off on about God. I love these two folks as well. They were very good. Perfect grandparents. Lovely.
Let me just ask you.
I know this probably meant to be Oklahoma, in the middle of somewhere outside Los Angeles. And this was our first taste of you getting to L.A. Even though it's a bit of a road picture, we didn't spend much time on the road, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, oh no.
I don't really want to see, cars traveling and a red line on the map, and I'm much happier being with the characters and getting to a place. And
you guys had to have had a good time doing this scene.
Oh yeah.
All these scenes in the hospital were very funny.
Lots of fun.
Well, he didn't do it. He was set up.
Well, this is really where you start to see this miscommunication start to happen.
Absolutely.
That theme of that, it happens with
until
Renee and
she's
George.
really
it happens with her.
We only see her make the one stop, in Arizona before she gets to Los Angeles. But yeah, so much of the comedy of this works on miscommunication of I'm saying one thing and you're taking it as there's that sort of thread of when you think of something like Being There, where a character makes a statement and people continually misread it, and it just ripples throughout the community. Because I really thought that was the next level when I read this script, of that it was they took really kind of familiar ideas, like there were hitmen and the idea of riffing on soap operas and all of that, and someone going crazy, but they continually found a new way to do it. They put a spin on it that I didn't expect it to happen that way. This woman reminded me so much of my grandmother. I almost couldn't do this scene. When the last time I saw my grandmother was in the hospital, and she reminded me so much of her. It was amazing.
It's a very touching moment.
She's lovely,
Betty,
I like that moment. And we had a couple of other episodes actually in when we first finished shooting of those moments where you thought you saw David, because right after that there was a moment where you mistake another doctor for George, and there was another doctor just by name that she goes to see. And again,
isn't it true you added this whole sequence just to try and get like a deal for an action picture at some point?
Exactly. No, not once you watch it. No. But what's interesting for me was doing this kind of scene. This is like the first time I'd ever, in this film anyway, had anybody use gunfire or cars crashing into each other. It's amazing how what's the word? Marginalized you
That's
feel.
The greatest run in the history of screen runs, by the way.
That little trot out of there. It's funny though when you're used to doing something, you're used to having actors, and that's what your mind is set on dealing with the way they communicate with each other, and you get into a thing and there's suddenly 7 cameras and people are worried about safety harnesses and the impact speed of 2 cars, and your job seems totally. I felt completely out of place there. I really sat back and did a quick study of this is how you're supposed to do this, but I felt completely out of water doing stuff
Doing
like
these action sequence things.
Squirting blood all over you, I felt pretty good about it. I felt like I knew what I was doing there. The rest of it, I didn't know. Tia was an amazing story as well, in terms of amazing actor stories. We looked at, I don't know how many actresses for...
Won't see that in every movie.
How many actresses we looked at for Rosa, for the part of Rosa, and Tia was on a tape of people that the casting directors had sort of made a cut and said, I don't think she's quite right for this. And I wasn't sure about anybody I'd looked at, and I went back and started looking at those tapes, and I saw her and said, wait a minute, who's that? And she came in and she got the part. Another one of those kind of stories of you never know where a break is going to come from.
You just never know.
At this point, we've actually cut out a little bit, but what I loved about these scenes in terms of the hospital is that you're now wearing, because she's gotten blood all over her nurse's outfit that she bought, she's now wearing her waitress outfit as a... I thought that was such a clever idea. That you can see the little trim she's got on the sleeve. She thought, well, that's perfect. She packed her waitress outfit and she starts wearing it as her nursing uniform. And wasn't there a point where, in that other scene, where the woman says, "Is that Issue?" And you're like, "Yeah, back home."
Yes.
That there was some reference made to it. I thought that was a funny idea.
This neighborhood, you get used to it.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, I got this apartment with a guy.
The guy you were telling me about?
Oh no, this one was worse. I had to have to play spray.
This is where is this Los? What's it called?
Silver Lake.
Silver Lake, yeah.
Los Silver Lake.
Los Silver Lake.
Because if it gets out, I'm on the street.
This is Silver Lake, and then of course we're walking into a set right here. Very nice match, actually.
Oh wow, this is nice.
Yeah, lovely set.
But see,
we spent a lot of time here. This is where we can embarrass Chris. This is where the scene of his weakest moment on screen. Not in this scene.
Was it here? I thought it was back at the other house.
No, it was when we were shooting. You guys first getting toward the end when you show up in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
You came to the door and Chris stayed outside and he was so sick that he couldn't go on.
So what they say?
Said find it.
That's right.
Find her.
That's right. Yeah, we had to. It was shift. Like we had to go over and start shooting some of your stuff because we
Take 10.
Yeah.
Chris fell down.
Oh, me?
Oh, goddamn, Wesley. There you go again. The same lousy-ass attitude that got us here in the first place. That make a statement, do an end-zone dance, shake your ass.
Morgan, you just did some moves there.
Dragging this whole fucking country down the drain.
In-zone dance.
And the end zone dance. Now this was another desperate moment. We were absolutely losing the light here. We were out in the middle of
nowhere.
Well, not exactly nowhere, but not long distance from nowhere.
Anybody that didn't have it coming. I'm a fucking professional. Where am I? Purgatory.
Worse.
But as a result of it, it's beautifully lit, actually. I love the way it looks, because you're talking about the twilight of your career. The sun's going down. It was like one of those moments that just worked.
This fucking job is just beginning.
And Jean-Yves started building one of those dance floors that he was famous for, like putting down all of that crazy flooring with those, but moved the camera around so well and was able to get it in a few takes. Chris is starting to realize the change that's taking place in you. Here's a scene that we significantly cut down. We had a whole long track, excuse me, through that restaurant with you. And it was a very funny conceit, actually, you handing out notes that was asking the question about, do you know this David Ravel and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what you end up cutting in the process. Yeah,
what you just don't need.
That we had almost a 4-hour assembly of this movie when it was done. I mean, and when you think that the movie's now about 95 minutes, 96 minutes, it's amazing to think that you cut out more than you have on screen, and that you could still tell the story cohesively from that. But I don't even know that it's the best bits, that you start to find some arc, that makes sense and emotionally that you stay with, and off you go.
let him hide from you any
This was a nice location. I really loved the way this looked, and not one that's been really art directed. It was a great little bar. What was it called? It was like the Good Luck Bar or something like that. In Los Angeles. It says the Formosa outside. Of course, we use that exterior, but it's an actual working bar in L.A.
Whatever. At least one of us should.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hola. ¿Qué crees?
I remember when we went to the Cannes Film Festival for this, and we were watching it on the screen, and they had to put below the screen a separate screen because this had subtitles. So you had the Spanish to English subtitle with the English to French subtitle below that.
Oh, exactly right. That's exactly right.
And those are the sorts of little observations I like to make.
Well, you know what was odd in that experience was going to, I mean, wasn't that an amazing experience going to Cannes?
It's just incredible.
To see it on a screen of that size.
And so unexpected.
And with like 2,500 people. That was really, I mean, amazing experience.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah. But when we did a technical check in Cannes, they use a slightly different ratio. We use Super 35. And the 2:3:5 ratio is slightly different in Europe. And so when we put it up on the screen, you get a technical run-through. Suddenly we started seeing microphones. And we thought, oh, this is going to be the most embarrassing 2 hours of our life. And we had to get them to change the masking of the stage because they were very, they stayed right on top of the line throughout the shooting of this. And then 4 or 5 times in the first reel, we were seeing microphones, and we literally had to get them to physically go up there and move the masking down to make it compress to the size that the film was supposed to be.
And was it something they'd done before, or was this something you were really having to pull favors and make happen?
We had to make it happen because it's just dependent on how close your sound people ride that line.
Sure.
And so that really I thought was going to be a frightening thing because it's I've gone to theaters in town or elsewhere where if the masking isn't right, you see that all the time, and you think, oh boy, they weren't very careful, and yet ultimately that's not really the case. It's the individual theaters. This is a great scene of misunderstanding. A great bit of music in here as well. I mean, we should mention the composer. I thought Rolf did an amazing job of taking, these storylines and finding thread that. I mean, his music really becomes a character. It's really quite nice, and he created a beautiful romantic score as well. This kind of thing is difficult. When you do something in one shot.
What's wrong with you?
It's very hard to coordinate.
Did you have coverage on this?
We had no coverage. No. And we always imagined this as being something that started back by the car and carried through. And Chris was ad-libbing. In fact, one of the ad-libs he made on this one, right about now, I thought was so funny. I'll shoot that bitch like she scratched my car. Because it was so funny, and it just those kind of things just sort of seep out of him every now and then. He just throws out a good one, and it was just.
I was always asked if a lot of the dialogue between Chris and I was ad lib, and I would say, well, no, Chris was encouraged to ad lib.
Yeah, exactly.
Leslie was not enthralled with Betty.
No, Wesley was enthralled with Wesley.
Increasingly frustrated.
Right.
Frustrated.
And increasingly ad-libbing. As he became frustrated.
Oh, me? I didn't ad-lib that much.
No, not that much. But
not that much,
good.
but they were.
Do you guys like ad-libbing? Because I've never found. I've been asked that many times if I like that, and because I do like a natural feel.
No, a natural. Sometimes you can only ad-lib once or twice, then it becomes part of the. I mean, we like to know what we're going to be saying.
Yeah.
And if you ad-lib and it becomes part of the dialogue, then you're no longer ad-libbing.
That's right. And you're shooting it 8 more times from different angles. And
Exactly.
Yeah, and it sometimes can shift the focus of a scene in a way that either enhances it or draws you away from the point you're trying to make with it. So I suppose it's a skill. It's a skill, and some people are really, really good at it, like in the case of Chris, and sometimes you're not so lucky. And you can...
Yeah, find it dangerous sometimes also
Exactly,
that
sometimes.
you go into something, even if it's like in rehearsals, you say I want to really improv this and see what comes out of it and stuff. But because I think you're going in suggesting that there's something wrong with the scene,
Precisely.
rather than rehearsing, and it very quickly rises to the surface. The problems you say, I don't know what I'm saying here. Why am I going and picking that up? Or this isn't very funny. I keep saying it, but am I saying it wrong? I think the scene exposes its weaknesses.
And you can
through
start to
rehearsal.
lose it, too. You start to lose whatever was there. It starts
Yeah.
to be derailed and slowly head off into a different... Then you're starting to ad-lib on top of the ad-lib.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
start
right.
to really lose control of what it was you were going
Yeah,
for.
we don't want to lose that bit of information, so can
But
you
you're
throw that
keeping
in
to the
somewhere
film
else?
with that particular scene, so it's definitely it's a definite skill, and Chris is very good at it because he doesn't detract from the point of the scene and what it's contributing to the story.
But it's interesting that he starts to do it more at this point now when he's getting more frustrated.
When he's more manic,
with Charlie. He's just finally kind of fed up now with the way things are going, and so he was allowed to have that space. I guess that breathing room. You know, when the character was much more sullen, it didn't make sense to have those kinds of riffs take place.
Or a veterinarian. I always wanted to help people and value all life, be it animal, plant, or mineral. Now, that sound like a showgirl to you?
Keep turning the pages. I'm sure she blows a few
So this is
strings.
heading off to the, what does he say, the Bland Canyon.
What?
You sound like a fucking madman.
Are you an American?
Yes.
This was all shot afterward, second unit stuff. Quite lovely, though.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And that almost, I mean, it's so strange, it almost looks like a set. You know, it's so odd, but we were there at the Grand Canyon, and freezing cold.
Freezing cold.
It was freezing cold.
If there's anything in this world I don't like.
It's cold, really?
Oh.
And it was just upsettingly cold there. Of course, this part of the scene with Chris in the car, and then when you go back to the car, we did shoot elsewhere. But all the stuff with you outside and with Renee was shot at the Grand Canyon. And dangerous. I mean, the fall off the side of there was horrible. I mean, we had people there roped up and just out of camera range. In fact, there was the wreck of an old car, if I remember correctly. Remember that from another film that had been shot there years ago, the Cornell Wilde film.
Didn't you add the gate?
All the railing and everything had been added. We added that for the movie.
Don't put too much weight on that when you're leaning against the
No,
oxygen.
it was a bit rickety.
Oh, look at this.
And here is a vision in waitresshood.
Another great music cue to this, as I recall.
Very nice.
Wasn't Doris Day. Which one was this?
This was Della Reese.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. A great variation
Nice
of your
dress, by the
waitress
way.
outfit, I thought. Yeah, it was beautiful.
This is the moment.
And Chris is like, what is going on?
I love you wave him like, no, I'm not done here. I'm not
See how
done
busy?
with nothing.
That's funny.
Now, I can't tell you how many people have said they like this dancing scene.
Oh, thinking that was a dancing scene?
Yeah, that we were dancing.
They done a little bit of dancing there, huh?
Well, there was that thing, that shot that you were going to do.
Well, that
Yes.
was
With going around it.
That's right. Until we realized it was just too cold to really do any more shots. We're really just going to have to go with what we've got.
It's a dancing scene.
Please.
Dance around like fucking Bojangles out there.
It's amazing how much you try and pack into a day, you know. And that false security that I think people get in their heads, that they think when you go shoot a movie that you just shoot until you're happy and you've got it all, and everybody, you know, says that's as good as it's going to get, and that they don't realize without visiting a set both the boredom of you know, the waiting in between and the anxiety and, oh, can you cry later because we have to go to lunch now, and the sort of weird thing that you ask actors to do. It's like, you know, can you shoot part of this now and then part of it a month from now, and then just remember how you felt.
Remember what you did, how you felt.
But also just that constant clicking of the clock. We're running out of time. I know this is a big moment, but we got to get it tonight, because we weren't going back to the Grand Canyon. That was it. We were there. You get these shots, and you know the people at work, they have to drive back. You have to be done now. It's a very after a while, the sound of the camera running just sounds like money. It sounds like one of those money counters to me. You know, I just feel like, oh, I'm wasting people's money. I got to keep moving.
How many quarters you got in your pocket?
It's a very scary proposition sometimes. Love this scene, frankly. I'll just say that because this was one that could have gone so badly. You know, the idea that...
Thanks for not bringing that up till today.
Yeah, glad you didn't mention that shortly
This could be
before
awful.
You know that.
So.
You know that's true. I mean,
Yes, of
this
course.
is the scene that is such a crux for the rest of the story. That I mean, how many times is your character probably approached like this by people, you know, wanting to either be in the business, wanting to meet you, and what is it about this person that in 5 minutes changes you from what a crackpot to, hey, do you want to go to a party with us?
Mm-hmm.
And it really could have, you know, you just the worst thing is you just wouldn't have believed it. Like completely emotionally was swept up, and it was such a sweet scene.
Well, and the dialogue was so great in the way that, you know, she's
Allison
mistaken
Janney,
for a
hats
fan.
off to her.
Hats off.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I
fantastic.
really like her. She is really terrific.
Yeah, a wonderful actress.
It's a mistake of my life. And it's a
But
mistake
you did an amazing casting job here all the way around. It just
That fellow Kevin Rom standing next to you. I mean, these guys who almost had no lines were fantastic.
Yeah,
I went to college
really.
with that guy.
With Kevin, right?
Yeah. Good, all the way across the board. Yeah, really good group. This was a great set. I mean, for being, what was this? This building was part of the. It's like the administration building of the railway
Metro,
or something. The metro.
railway.
Yeah.
If you're wondering where the most of the 3.4 billion tax dollars went, I can tell you, they're in the lobby.
Yeah. An awfully big place. It had not really been exploited movie-wise. I mean, it really worked for us as a kind of anonymous place for them to go to this benefit.
Yeah.
Flattered, I think.
In this scene, you finally confronted. I mean, there's a slight stalker theme running through this as well that doesn't come up a lot in interviews.
It is so anathema to what you would think of as stalker because she's so engaging. It's not like grabby, clutchy,
but ingratiates herself
overwhelming.
in a way that just is. There's a slightly frightening element to it, and you can see on Craig's face that he's not quite sure how much to engage. But it's lovely. There's a certain danger quotient, which I thought was quite nice. But the fact that you're repeating that dialogue, I thought that was such a great thing, and then that Allison picks up on that. And yet the hurt that you find, you know, that you when you know not at being found out, because that's not what happened. You know, you at the mistakes you made in your life. You know, you can feel the real pain that Betty feels. And yet, how could she feel it? Because she hasn't actually gone through with it. You know, she hasn't gone through. She didn't leave this guy at the altar or anything. It's a lovely twist on the performance.
Del, yeah. Del, he was amazing. No, he was, I mean, this guy.
Several nights. What did we spend? 3 nights at least? 3 nights here at this place.
Yeah, we were there 3 nights, and we did some reshooting. I know. I think a little, like one thing
outside or something.
I don't remember, but it was a lot to get. But again, it was credit, James and Richard with wonderful dialogue.
Great scene.
It was really fun to play because it was, like you said, right on the edge of kind of she's just another fan to genuinely being enthralled with her and what she's saying and.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You're having a moment. But such a sweet transformation.
God, that is unbelievable.
It's funny, it's just what I was thinking.
I know.
I can't tell you how much it hurt me to hear that you married him.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I tried to tell myself at first.
And the scene has great pace too, because right at the point where you've done this whole thing enough already, it calls for Renée to break down and get very emotional, and it takes an immediate switch. And
you can see where you're getting caught up in that then. Always fun to do that, isn't it? Cry 6 or 7 times.
I'm just kind of playing along.
Oh yeah.
Are you crying now?
She is.
Renée, don't cry now. It's only a movie.
Does he keep calling you George?
I don't know.
Listen,
A look on your face.
I'm sure
She's really a terrific little actress
he's
here.
a very busy man. So we really
She is good, isn't she?
have to go now. Pleasure meeting you.
It's true.
We gotta get to this previous engagement, but it was good. It was so great.
And then always, you said that one of the biggest audience reactions in the thing was when she looks back at Tia here.
Huge reaction from that. Yeah, because you set that up. This moment, because she's come with the expectation of this is going to blow up in Betty's face. And then you don't cut back. You'd never cut back to show her waiting, to wonder what's going on.
Tia's reaction, and Renee, I particularly like Renee's her wait.
Right there, and then you finally remember that she's there watching all of this. It's lovely.
Thank you.
All right.
Hold on a minute. Thank you. Hey, thanks, man. I love your work.
Oh, thank you.
Cold here
Hey,
too.
look who's here.
Outside.
Very cool.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Here's another bit of Wizard of Oz trivia. If you look at the valets, those vests are modeled on the flying monkeys.
Oh.
And
now you're just making stuff up.
You take a look at that vest. Making stuff up as he goes. It's absolutely true. Those vests were modeled on the little outfits that the flying monkeys wear.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, no, this is a mine of Wizard of Oz material in here.
Relax, she didn't even get you that hard. Do I know you?
No, but I know just who you are.
This is a scene.
Do I know you?
Do you remember how you had the car in reverse?
Yeah, we had some driving problems. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think we have to bring that
Here's a
up.
scene that Morgan does not remember shooting. The outside of this place. Or if you do remember it, it's very frightening to me. Because
I remember us driving up.
This part we did, yeah, absolutely.
So that's not Morgan?
That is Morgan. This part was shot outside the actual bar in Signal Hill, but that exterior, that kind of very rural facade, we shot elsewhere here in California.
This is my favorite scene. Watch.
Is that right?
Watch.
There's a shot.
High noon.
Who doesn't want that shot?
I think there's a reason you picked that hat.
No, very specific about it. Morgan knows what clothes are right, hats
He
right.
knows. He
He knows.
What can I get you?
I remember I tried getting some other hat past you, and it just wasn't happening. You remember it was some sort of hat that just was not right, and you were absolutely right. That was just the right thing for Charlie to have.
You sure have. Shut up,
One of my favorite Morgan moments in filming this, actually, because we talked earlier about how Chris was probably nervous to come in and work opposite
Right.
one of our most established, talented actors. Well, so was I, And yeah, it's true, Morgan. We all admire you. We all love you, man. You just gonna have to accept it. One of my favorite moments was at the end of the film when the scene that you added, where Morgan and Morgan's character and Betty actually speak.
Yes.
And we were doing that really complicated shot where I start off in it and then I have to back up out of it. And in order to do it, Jean-Yves, the camera, the DP, and myself, I had to make it through that little bathroom doorway.
Yeah.
And I had to duck out of camera.
yes.
Yeah, I start in the shot, and so but he has to keep eye level with me the whole time, but I have to duck and back through the doorway with the camera next to my head, and he can't flinch and he can't move his eyes. Even though I duck, he still has to keep his eye level, the same. And at one point, Neil asked, so what would be better? Should you just back off to the side or should you duck and actually go into the bathroom and then stand up again? And I said, I don't know. Morgan, what do you think? Whatever would be less distracting for you. And Morgan stopped for about 2 seconds and looked at me and he said, Renee, I don't get distracted. And that about summed it up. And it's the truth, because from that point on I tried.
I issued a challenge.
Yeah, you did.
You don't get very distracted,
He
though.
doesn't get distracted, but he does have fun trying to distract you. A real good time.
It was our last
This is a lovely scene. This is a great look after a very sweet kiss. of complete befuddlement.
This was where we started to get worried. We were doing this scene, and she continues to like go on about her being her stories, and he has to continue to think that she's just an actress. So I think you added that line where she says, I was I got bit by a parrot when I was 12, or whatever the line is, and you had me say, okay, I'll bite, what's the story?
Right.
And she goes into the story, but we felt like we had to start putting moments where George is encouraging her to do this as opposed to not getting it yet, so that he doesn't look like a complete idiot. Renee kept insisting on shooting this scene.
We were well past our 12 or 14 hours, and it was just, I think we eventually just left the camera on sticks, didn't we? And you guys just shot out that last 1,000-foot roll.
I tell you, some secrets are just better kept.
They are, aren't they? Kept for the DVD.
We did have one where the actual windshield wipers went off at that point. We thought maybe that was a little too much.
A couple of sad faux pas.
Still in love.
This isn't
This is
fair.
another scene where a whole section was cut out, and just fortuitously, Rosa kind of ended up in the same spot at the end of the scene, and we were able to literally just condense this scene. But there was a great deal of talk about because her change from "you're crazy," this guy is really an actor, suddenly became motivated. This is a fantastic house. I have to stop for a moment. This is a Lloyd Wright, a Frank Lloyd Wright's son, designed that house.
Lloyd Wright Jr.
No, just Lloyd Wright.
I thought it was Frank Lloyd Wright Jr., literally.
No, I think his name's just Lloyd Wright.
Oh. Okay.
But a very odd house.
It was strange. It was very...
But perfect for this.
Yeah.
Where is it? It was right in Hollywood.
It's on, it's somewhere.
What does it have, an interior court? Or
It has an interior courtyard, yes.
Yeah. And it's just in the most regular neighborhood. It's just kind of house, this amazing structure, and then house.
But I think those are incredibly difficult to maintain because the stonework is so, difficulty with maintaining that.
Come on, Lila. We could break the mold.
And this was a big conceit to try and pull off too, to go from a date literally to I want to bring her onto the show. There's a lot of those, and I guess that's what
Well, in a manner of speaking, but I did soap opera, and
what did you do?
I did Another World for a year and a half.
Oh, really?
And they get casting around for story ideas, and it just doesn't quite matter where it goes, as long as they can hold the audience's attention.
Yeah. Right. Well, they must.
So sometimes they'll just go completely off into some strange realm just for the audience to say what the hell are they doing and where they're going next.
Life is hard. Movies are easy.
Yeah.
Because movies is the only part of your whole life, only job in the whole world where you get takes. And
you get to
everything else in life, you get that's it.
One shot.
You said it badly once and it ruined your life.
It's ruined your life.
Exactly.
Oh, you messed up. That's it. Not movies.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
Movies are the greatest thing ever.
No, it's true.
It's the only time you get a do-over.
That's true.
I love movies. I suck at life. We all do.
You just keep working.
Listen, you're a screaming success at life. What are you talking about?
Despite my suckiness.
No.
But movies, you get to do it again and again.
Until you get it right.
That's true.
I hope I'm never really shitty in a movie, but...
That's my brother-in-law.
True?
Yeah. A little trivia for you.
The whole family in it.
And not bad. Plays a good little security guard. Aspiring actor from New York kind of character,
I like the way he took the money. He looked away. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, not bad.
Shows promise.
He shows promise. You never know where it's going to come from. Another one of those acting stories.
Great figure. I thought of a wholesome Doris Day thing.
One of them artsy high-angle jobs there. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Just throw those in every so often.
Was there a reason for that on this?
Because, I thought the room looked good. I loved that light fixture, and I was going to make sure I got it in. I was motivated as much by that.
Do you see how millions of dollars are spent on indulgent directors now, ladies and gentlemen? I like that fixture. I want it in the picture.
It worked.
Yeah, but see, if you direct, you figure you get some sort of a line on how much power you can exert.
Yeah.
I want this picture. I want this shot. I want this light in the picture. Yeah, but we're going to have to. I don't care. Please.
Is that how you do that, Morgan?
Sure.
Oh, I love
Excellent.
being Rosso.
Sure.
Or Rosso.
It's not that hard. You can build scaffolding, and it will take us a day. No, it won't.
Many great things about you.
Not as much as I've heard about you.
Is it for you?
I like how you inadvertently get this sort of Christ-like halo behind your head right here.
Boom!
Kinnear takes on the full
David.
Christ look.
Oh,
Amazing.
It's quite nice.
It's like Lord Fauntleroy.
Damn it, move your head to the left, man.
Don't let them see how it's done.
I don't think your friend Rosa likes me very much.
Oh, she's probably just jealous.
And we were having such fun when we were doing this, thinking that by this point the audience would be standing in the aisles going, "You idiot, she's crazy!"
No, an audience wants to go for this kind of story. It's sweet.
Yeah, they're on Betty's side.
I mean, that's the...
No, I know. They go, but I just mean if certain things hadn't have worked.
If they didn't work, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the strange thing, because the tone is so odd. It's an amazing house.
This house is used like all the time, you told me.
It is used often.
And we were under, let's talk about the clock again, because we were really under the clock this night.
Yeah, I bet that this house looks like it was the one that was used, and what's love got to do with it?
Yeah, it's used often, I think. Quite famous, but it's a perfect kind of house for George to have. That and his $80,000 leather sofa. There was some outrageous...
No, really?
Yeah, there were some... I forget who the designer was, but they were just stupendously expensive. Not to buy. I mean, they were just, used for the movie, but that's there was something like $40,000 or $80,000, something crazy. This is one of those scenes that hopefully will be in a handful of deleted scenes on the DVD. The version that was slightly longer of this with the joke that we liked so much. This is one of those hard moments where you decide what's going to stay and what's going to go. Because there are
one of our favorite lines.
Yeah, character beats, along the way that you really hate to lose with someone, but the scene as it stands, I think, is perfect. You believe the little bubble that they're in there on this date. But there was a thing about George's character of having the anxiety of trying to move from soap operas to even nighttime television if he was going to make the jump and all of that. And those are nice moments to hear about characters, but then you have to worry always about the pace and the tone and how you keep that bubble up in the air, how you keep the ball floating and make it all work.
So I'm walking out Hollywood Boulevard, checking
Big
out all the
old
stars.
monster crane on Hollywood Boulevard.
I could not find People Bryson anywhere, right? So I'm looking at this Chinese guy, right? And he's reading his paper. And I look real hard. And who do I see? That's Lonnie, the main prick from the show. And who's that next to him? Betty. That's definitely Betty. I told you this ain't no coincidence.
I love the clothes that you two had because they were so unexpected for what you think of as hitmen. There have been so many hitmen in movies in the last 5 years. And
Three-piece suits, raincoats.
Yeah, and Chris has this like collegiate wear on all the time, and you have the cowboy hat and this kind of plaid shirt, and I just thought it was nicely handled. He's quite funny in this scene.
Was the no let go? You're ruining my vest. You're stretching my vest.
I don't remember where that came from. If that was his.
Right. You talk about Betty now. She wouldn't do
some combination of vest and you need therapy. Those came out either on the page or Chris threw out a few.
I love it that he's worried about his vest getting stretched.
Get the separator.
Get ready.
This was a nice touch, I thought. The
Get ready.
putting on some aftershave, some skin bracer. If only it could have been high karate or something.
Right.
But skin bracer's pretty classic. That and Old Spice, I think, are about, or any Avon product.
All right. Not much. Here we go. There's nothing in front of you. Relax. Although you got a little stuff there.
This was strange. I mean, this set as well. We never really shot in what you would think of conventionally as a studio. This was remember this strange warehouse space in the middle of nowhere, where we had a number of these larger sets like Rose's and excuse me, Dell and Betty's, and then of course this studio. It was an odd space that we were using. Worked out quite well, but it was really not like shooting, I guess, the way you'd think of shooting like at Warner Brothers or
on a sound
or
stage.
Soundstage, Universal, something like that.
Here we go in a sec. Hold on.
It was kind of like our own little
Closed
playground.
down factory space, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a little playground.
I was looking for a chain to hold those glasses. I wanted a really cool chain. I had to borrow those from the first AD because they forgot the props didn't have them, and it drove me nuts. It's funny how little things sometimes will drive you nuts for the rest of your life about something. That always bothered me so much because I really thought he needed to have the little bright gold chain holding the glasses. It couldn't be leather, and that's all it was, unfortunately. Lucky to have that. That only happened because we had a first AD.
I love the fact that those appear out of nowhere, though. Suddenly he's got his directing glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Quite good.
Eric, so just do one of those. Just,
This was a strange scene. I didn't quite, going into it, even know how to make this work. This is the equivalent of the coconut dropping on Gilligan's head. This is like that wake up scene.
Yeah.
And it really, the combination of exposing George in a way. There were so many things that could have just been one note rather than as many as I think that were there. You snapping out of it and feeling scared and making that poignant. And George, kind of, as I say, showing his colors and yet feeling for him. When you walk away, I understand. I don't think of him as a bad guy. He just, he wanted something and he misunderstood you. And
yeah, that was always my hope, was that that the audience would feel like he's not a bad guy, that they'd understand that he'd been totally undermined and betrayed by who he thought was somebody who was going to be very special in his life, both true professionally, but personally as well.
Yeah.
You start feeling like a lawyer pleading for your client.
I'm making my case here. Another one of those little push-ins. I don't know if you caught that there.
I'm sorry.
I did.
Thank you.
Throw you into it,
What the hell's going on?
If you need like a minute just to kind of
Some nice sound work here as well. The way the sound just sort of starts to seep in and then cuts out when you shake your head. They did very good work adding all these layers of voices, but again, just keeping on your face.
We're on the set. You don't have to call me David here, okay?
What's going on?
What is going on? What? You're acting crazy here. Isn't this exactly what you wanted?
I don't know.
This was a rough few days.
No problem.
Shooting these final scenes.
Yeah, these kinds of scenes. They're also even like
Renee and I had to do this, and then after 3 days of doing this, then we had to finish the capper, which is the last scene coming up of us sitting across the table at a diner where she's this soap opera actress, and we had a very difficult time with that, as I recall, maintaining.
Is this some kind of game?
No, it's
It was midnight.
switching those gears.
Yeah, it was midnight.
Yeah. Yeah, plus having as many people as there are in this scene. There's meant to be all of these people who work on the show. I find that whole thing.
Did you know you were going to use the blurry thing in this, or was that just on the set? You just kind of thought of it?
I just know it was more on the set that we thought.
God damn it, she's
She's making a shift. Right? This is another.
Yeah, certain things that would delineate for an audience what was happening to her. The sound starts to go out. The focus starts to shift.
Happy?
Sorry, what did I do?
Who put you up to this? Did my ex-wife do this?
David.
Stop calling me that.
My name is George. George, say it. This is a TV show, a
Now
television
here's
show.
a place where you actually, I mean, speaking of like improv, where you weren't held, I mean, there was a scene there, but you were freed to kind of like go at her. There's a number of takes that, you know, they're not all the same.
It was the only place, I think.
Well, and because we were picking up also things that we used in the soundtrack, because it's like you're saying one version of it and you say it slightly differently, you know, or you interject something new, and when you hear 4 or 5 of those voices that she's listening to now, and then it went completely dead, and then you come back to reality here.
Are you hearing this? Hey! She's fucking crazy. Don't look at me like that. Hey,
All good. I loved his face. The Dr. Steve, he was great.
No, not now. I'm David. I am Dr. David Ravel. I'm the great Dr. David Ravel, right? Loma Vista's greatest. I'm the doctor. I don't think that. She thinks that. Who did you call me?
She called you George. George.
George McCord, my favorite actor.
Oh, God.
What are you doing here? Why am I here?
All through this, there's a number of ways it could have gone. Your reaction to her. There were times where you were saying, "Shoot me, just shoot me now." Remember that you kind of played up the whole stalker end of it.
Yeah.
And other times where you seemed really distraught over how she was acting. There's so many ways that we could have
we
gone.
definitely covered a few different ways.
With George's reaction to that.
I was so uncomfortable the first time I saw it, though, yelling at her sweet little Renée that much. It was like I felt, oh my God, he unloaded a little bit more than I thought he was going to.
Chris's finest hour here.
Trying to locate a deranged fan of yours, Miss Betty.
Deranged, yeah, that'd be the.
This was literally like the only scene you had with Chris and Morgan.
This is
Chris
it.
gives like, "Hi, nice to meet you," bang, slaps you.
Hernandez or has a H sound to it. They're in Silver Lake. That's all I know.
Silver Lake.
We added his inability to pronounce her last name correctly, which I have no idea why.
It's an H sound. That was all good.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, great.
Actually,
Chris Rock preparing to take a whack, and we had to. This took a while because you wanted you were insistent that the glasses fly off my head.
Yeah, that's right.
I got whiplash when we finally got it.
Autograph. Not for me.
Yeah, it never is.
Look, you need to have some fucking manners, man. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Hey, I saw your TV.
That's a true classic.
That was an ad lib from Chris.
That
was very funny.
Asshole blew you off the screen. Which again, like Aaron's haircut, sort of cemented your place in the television pantheon, like where George McCord stood as an actor.
Can I have these chips? Sure.
I'm sure I ate that bag of chips at some point during those proceedings.
Or you were into pork
With
rinds.
a Diet Coke.
Pork rinds, yeah. I like all that sort of salty, snacky food. All good.
We're done.
We're pushing through. There being like literally the only drug reference there.
How was that?
Finally seeing what it is.
It's all there. Hasn't been touched. You're right about Dell. He wasn't lying.
Yeah, well, you were right about what the lady bartender said.
Yeah, but you were right first. You gotta follow your instincts.
So what are your instincts telling you now, kid?
Take this shit back to Detroit and get our fucking money?
We could do that. I could be on my way to Florida. I could go on down to Thailand.
Make a reference here to Chris about going to Thailand. That's one of the sections of the film that we lost that whole section with Chris McDonald, you know, at the truck stop.
Oh yeah.
There's always like so many threads, you know, if you hopefully done your work in a script that
They would all tie together.
go through characters, but then you make a reference like that works on its own, but it had a resonance. Had that other scene been in there. But that does happen along the way.
Kansas. Tonight? Well, come on, you're gonna drive halfway across the country this minute.
I have to go fix what happened to my husband.
This was a strange scene to shoot, as I recall. Not this bathroom scene so much. I mean, it is because it's that point of your first sort of waking up from what's happened. But shooting this scene in Rose's house where everybody arrives, in essence, we shot in so many increments. We sort of shot a side of it with you and Chris, and then got the bit that we needed with Betty and Charlie, and then we went back and we shot the bits with Crispin and Pruitt crawling around on the floor. It seemed like weeks and weeks later to find to see a scene like this come together. It was a weird experience to shoot it in so many different portions. That was, I think, probably minutes before Chris.
I believe shooting through the door hatch was my idea.
Was it really?
Yeah. I'm going to take credit for that.
You can take credit for it, absolutely.
You guys can just straighten this out. Go easy on her, okay? Because she's had a really rough day.
Hey, Rosa.
These guys are here to help you, Betty.
I don't think so.
Come on, come here, come on. The fuck over. Come here. Sit down. Shut up.
So, we meet again.
Even knowing the script, when Morgan shows up and does this, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen here. I mean, it was just...
Well, that's hopeful, yeah, where you've gotten the audience to a point where, if you didn't have a moment like when they come into the bar in Arizona and make trouble, I think you've become friendly with them in a way. But if you don't remember that they are dangerous as well, then this wouldn't work nearly as well as it did. And this was always, as I say, the moment that I thought, we're just not going to be able to pull this off when these two show up.
Boy, Michael had to see you.
Because it's just so convenient. So, but it does work.
It holds together very well.
Yeah, it does.
It always did. I never had a doubt about the efficacy of their appearance at this time, even though we weren't keeping up with them.
Right.
And
probably, in fact, that's why it gets as many laughs as it does. It pays off in a way you've kind of forgotten about that side of the story, and then to have them show up, it does work.
I've come 2,000 miles for this.
Pruitt's members-only jacket really is a touch that
they were great together.
Goes well beyond sublime.
No, you shut up.
Chris has got like his karate moves going there. Quite good.
She's mine.
Check his hands out. He's ready for action. Quite good. I remember you enjoying having that tape on your skin.
The hair has still not grown back.
You literally had like reaction to that tape.
Yeah.
I got 2 kids and a dog.
I like Chris's WWF move here.
Yeah. That's extreme wrestling. That's not even WWF.
Yeah, actually,
That's not professional.
Don't worry about me. Find out what they know.
You're pretty good with that gun, Morgan.
Well, after a while,
Why is one finger up? I never noticed that.
She's like saying, "Okay, all right, hold on now. Wait a minute before you stab me.
If I could just have a moment.
1 point here." And then it takes this odd turn.
Take off my
Oh, no. No.
No?
You know who I am?
Oh, I've got a pretty good idea.
Listen, you didn't have anything to do with what Dale was into, did you, Betty?
I have no idea what Dale was mixed up in.
So, you had nothing to do with the drugs?
Now, Charlie here reveals himself as a kind of a lost soul, after all. in dire need of something. Some
garbage man of the what was it? Of the human condition, something like that.
Right, cold-blooded bitch. I mean, not that I didn't still admire you for it.
If you didn't come here to kill me, then...
Marine Corps ring, as I recall, something like that. I like that. That's when Chris had like the high school graduation ring on.
Did you see him as a dangerous guy, Morgan?
Now, how'd you two
No,
young fucks find
I saw him as totally professional. You know, assassins factor in collateral damage. And I always thought of him as a guy who struggled always to avoid collateral damage. You know, it's part of his professionalism. Which is why he would get angry with Wesley so much. Wesley wanted collateral damage.
Exactly.
Going through.
fuck up both before I kill both of you. You watch the show?
Yeah, I'm the one that watched the show. He's the one that didn't.
No, for someone who says what he's killed like how many people? 32, something like that. 32 people. He really should seem to be able to remove himself from
any moral connection.
To yeah. Saw it really as figures.
Chloe is not a lesbian.
Jasmine.
Sorry.
Chloe was the other character.
Well, that was an amazing thing that you did, though, is that you were able to keep the soap opera storyline kind of vital through. I mean, it's still playing at this point in the movie, you know?
Yeah. And as much as we shot of it.
I love this shot right here. There's your panic. Oh, God.
This is busy watching.
I don't meet people.
And this is sort of the violins portion where you go low down on being kind of conservative. And
I love this scene.
This is a great speech. It's
I love
quite sweet.
doing this scene. I love the line that isn't in the film any longer because it's right in the middle of the end portion of this scene, which is a continuation of this conversation. Of course, too long. Of course, you get the idea of it, so it's time to leave the scene before the line.
I like walks in
where he asks her, she's crazy.
Symphonies.
Betty, are you crazy?
Yes.
That, I think, is probably one of the hardest moments in my entire experience of making films, to keep a straight face. That one line, that delivery.
You didn't always keep a straight face either.
Yeah, but I'm saying when I managed to.
When you actually did keep it for a brief period, long enough to where we could cut.
When I did keep a straight face. That was
hard.
the hardest moment.
That was the hard part. That did seem to strike you as funny.
God, it was funny. I think it was just coming from him and just that delivery.
No.
Because he loves her, he thinks.
Yeah.
But he's not quite sure.
What he's getting himself into.
Long walks in the rain. I mean, for me, that was
Pruitt doing his own stunts here.
Is that right? Is he there when the thing comes down?
No, he didn't actually do that. Just the leg work up the wall.
And they bring in the stunt legs.
Brought in the stunt guy for when the tank actually tipped over.
Did you just do this once with the tank over?
I think we did the tank a couple times, twice at least. There's so many regulations for things like animal, fish and all of that. It was quite difficult shooting all the stuff with the fish flopping around.
You had a fish wrangler?
We absolutely had a fish wrangler. They can only, be out of water for a matter of seconds.
I wonder who sets that time period.
Some board.
Goldfish Union.
This was, that's so sanitized, of course, from what we shot. We shot the most extraordinarily awful shots of Chris. Getting his head blown off.
Yeah. Splattered all up against.
But it was the kind of thing that when audiences first saw it, they literally, the rest of the movie, they just stopped watching because it was just so. And it was the kind of thing that I understood that, whereas I felt you needed the violence that Betty saw, and that Dell had justified with both his haircut and his actions what happened to him. At this point, you had won the audience over, and they just tuned out when they saw Chris's, literally like his face come off. You know, it was just way too much. But it was and it also took away from that great reveal, which, you know, has happened now, that this is Charlie's son. And you sort of retroactively go back in your head and you realize the relationship they've had and why Charlie has taken as much as he has, and vice versa. There's a number of times we talked about should we bring that up to the forefront? Should we know that that's their relationship? But yeah, I think it was so wise to wait till the end, because it was a great thing to have happen here.
Shit. I need my other gun. Go check his jacket. Give me your gun.
No.
I'll cover you.
Let's wait for the real police.
I am the real police.
So can't we just sneak outside, huh?
Lady, you don't just run away from crime. And Betty's in there.
I love that relationship.
So all of this really is because...
Yeah, one we thought about not cutting back to again until the very end, but I thought you had to get some sense of who they were.
And they're so good.
They are good.
They're just so good.
You also had to understand why, at this point, because the last thing they saw of Charlie was him falling back looking like he got shot, why they wouldn't rush the door at this point. And so I think that was... You could only have a scene like you're about to have here if you would, as an audience, believe that, you know, that yes, the cop cars may be coming, but the guys who are out there are not going to burst in, that you're going to have this moment.
I got my professional pride. And I don't want somebody else to get credit for taking me out. I want you to listen to me. Betty, you never needed that actor. You don't need that doctor.
I remember when I asked you the first time if Charlie should get away, you had definite thoughts about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there were certainly times where I was asked by various people if that should be the case. If Charlie shouldn't, you know, should we shoot an alternate ending? Should there be an open window? But you were quite sure that this is the way that Charlie had to go.
A lot of different reasons for that, but the main one is
you didn't want to do a sequel?
No. That you know, we're making movies and we're selling them to kids, and how do you justify the violence that people do to each other by letting them get off? And what does that say to your audience? That it's all right?
And that just because we like them, and yet we know that's his history.
Right.
That if we find them likable, then it's okay what he does. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's very, very dangerous.
Yeah. That was a great reaction to that shot because you didn't know when it was coming. It's fantastic. Very, honest reaction there.
Halfway across the country, only to find themselves the victims in a final, bloody confrontation. We go now to B.B. Burke at the scene of the...
That's our Betty. The story is beyond belief.
I love this scene.
I love the way the movie finishes off. It just keeps kind of like riffing on itself. It just keeps building. And, because you'd think that even if you could justifiably have gone out at the end, that she ends up on the show. That has nothing to do really with what her dreams were. And
me. Okay.
It's lovely the way it keeps, kind of topping itself here in the last few minutes.
She's so wonderful there, that
So
moment.
she has a great laugh. Allison Janney does.
I don't really care about your feelings.
One of those
she's really wonderful. And really, created, helped set up the dynamic between the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
Subversive actor to the producer. This was kind of like we do this where we just went off. You said say no as many times as you can say no.
Oh yeah, you had a huge riff about
it for like 2 minutes.
No, yeah. And it ended up just being the classic cut of no, I'm not doing that. Bang to you doing it.
For not respecting you, and just all the stupid little things that I was...
When you have a minute.
Yeah, I really don't like the idea of autographs, and I'm kind of in a moment right here, so...
Having a moment.
It's the check.
Having another moment.
Sorry about that. No, I got this.
That's right. It's not the 40s, you know.
Okay.
That's where
You know
Charlie's
that my-
advice came into you. That was nice.
That if you were any handsomer, it'd be a crime.
Thank you.
It's just too bad that you're such an asshole.
That's okay. You know what? That's okay. That's all right. I'm okay with that. That's fair enough.
Is that a microphone?
Settle the whole asshole thing.
No.
Is there
Don't
any
say,
chance
don't say that now.
you would think about joining the show?
Now, this is the scene that we shot after we'd been doing the
Always a chance.
kind of more traumatic stuff that was made for
Going
the end of
shooting
a
the
long
soap
week.
opera. Yes,
Right.
it did.
Yeah, the...
Handsomer doctor, it'd be a crime.
So hard to shift those gears. into
I
that.
love you, Cherry. Now,
Cherry. Well, I didn't help anything with that name, did I?
No, you-
Cherry. You had to name her Cherry. That's what killed it.
Cherry.
We couldn't keep it straight.
Or what you were doing?
Yes.
Daniel, ven, ya está la novela.
I have that effect on people.
Well, you certainly had that effect on me.
Ma tu ci sarai domani, e domani, e domani ancora.
In Rome, that was
A
a
rainy day
unique
in Rome.
experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Going for a couple
It was
of
kind
days.
of like a daze.
It was so
Completely.
strange.
It
Yeah,
was
to
so strange.
show up in Rome and shoot this thing, and
Mm-hmm.
because a whole different crew, and
Rain.
Excuse me, sir?
Raining.
Sir?
But it had to be Rome.
yeah, it was a lovely capper to the way that we
I
first
always thought
found
the other
her.
thing this guy could have done is if he was holding the pot of coffee to have poured it without looking.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Hey,
That's
guys,
me, 10th inning.
let me know what you
pitcher.
really think.
No, listen, you did an okay movie, Neil. Nobody's questioning that.
Should have gone for the coffee.
Did you do this in just one day?
I think it was, and then there was the prep for it,
You two had to probably prep for what, 2 or 3 weeks over there in Rome for
something
this?
like that.
That's a great shot.
A last-minute gift. They wanted
that-
to let us go on the roof.
Oh, really?
No, and then finally the producer, Gail Muschrick, happened to know someone who lived in
The building?
this square,
Oh my God.
and they got us up onto the roof. It was amazing.
What an incredible time.
Well, I
life
think
that
it was a very lovely film.
It was a pleasure. It's got,
Extremely
it's got
well
an
cast.
absolute. Well, Morgan can't because of the sequel issues that Greg brought up.
All we heard is
We
gunshots.
only
We're
heard
not sure what
gunshots.
happened.
That's absolutely true.
Neil LaBute, ladies and gentlemen. Come on.
Neil, I liked all of Neil's movies. Neil, Morgan, hey, I can't go wrong here. Renee, who else? Kinnear came on later.
All right.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they offered it to me. I couldn't believe.
Isn't it amazing how that happens? You get a job and say, I can't believe that they give you
Yeah, because I mean, I don't get offered good movies. I read them.
But
I go see them.
I go see them. I'm a fan of good movies.
Yeah.
But I can't really sit here and tell you I've ever been offered something good.
You know what's so rare? What's so rare is that we all have the same experience with that. And how often does it happen that there's one script where there's a room full of actors who participated and they can each say, I'm amazed that I got to play this part.
Truly.
I mean, that's testament to what it was that we had to play with here. I was amazed too. I was so excited. I read this and I thought, no way, no way.
Right.
But I'd like to.
Then, like the first week, I still thought I had a shot of being fired or something.
Oh, sure. Like on trial. Like today's the day.
my
You're
Let me
gonna
go
in
here
and
at some point.
today's the day they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, it was
Today they're gonna figure me out.
During the rehearsals, I'm just like, okay, don't get
out.
fired.
I'm outta
Don't
here.
get fired.
There's a point, yeah. If they've shot enough, they're not going to go back. So
Yeah, I was just
I gotta stick in there that long.
Don't get
But it was
fired.
during
Who was
rehearsal
it
when
who
it was during rehearsals
Oh.
when my sense of our relationship gelled. I mean, you have some sense of it just off the page, but not until you get some flesh and blood, some interaction going. Do you have a visceral connection to it. You know. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I hadn't acted in years. Like, real acting. 10 years I hadn't done any, I guess a little bit in Dogma, but this was like acting.
Yeah.
Well, you did good.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you.
Me, I'm normally, give me 20 minutes. I worked on Lethal Weapon, Dick Donner, lovely man. Give me 20 minutes.
Give me 20 minutes.
Give me something I can cut out on. If you give me a funny thing, I can end the scene on that.
So
we're gonna have a
just
decent
riff.
movie. Yeah.
Just get up there and just.
Yeah.
Just
It's
blow.
like, okay, I'm where? What's the situation? Yada yada yada. Get a laugh. They cut the scene. Go on to the next one. This was a movie.